November 13th today, and still as yet we have no certified official winner of the 2020 presidential election. And that is real news for you. I said the left has been sneakily promoting fake news. So I said there's still a significant problem and more people need to step up. So I said this gives us an opportunity to pray every day, several times a day, because we do not know what the outcome will be. I said based on all the information we have now, we cannot say for certain what the outcome will be. Some people are saying that Trump will pull it off. He will find enough voter irregularities, suppression, I don't know if you want to call it fraud, whatever you call it. If you want to call it fraud, call it fraud. But enough voter irregularities and problems to be able to clench the nomination with the Electoral College. And I hear that there's going to be some big announcements next week about the progress that Trump is making with that. And I said, and I don't think he would have gone into this fight if he didn't think he could win. Because, you know, Trump is a fighter and he's also a winner. So I do not think he would have gone into this if he thought that, you know, that Biden had a clear victory and there was nothing suspicious and that he didn't have a case. But, and even Tim is starting to say, like, maybe. Dr. Turley says we're going to win. Tim said, my mind's telling me Biden, but my heart's telling me Trump. I'm guessing, you know what, that's what my heart's telling me too. My heart is telling me Trump. Now, my faith is about 80%. I have 80% faith that Trump will emerge victorious. 80% faith. And I have 20% faith that Biden could win. So, I'm sound like a broken record saying, we shall see, we shall see, we shall see. But you can rely on President Trump to exhaust every means, and I said, this is the point where the conservatives have to stand up to the left, or, you know, they're going to try to crush us. And this is just that point. I said, bottom line is no matter who wins the election, we are beginning a new era of conflict and struggle, tumultuous, unchartered times in America. And we will only prevail if we are self-reliant as possible, as we can be, as self-reliant as we can be, and if we stand up for our rights and fight back. The left is trying to give the Constitution the heave-ho by just ignoring it. We can't let them do that. We must ignore the left. And ultimately, I think we could see America splinter into multiple countries. I mean, the same with some of these other countries that are having all these lockdowns and woes and problems. I think we could see them split and splinter. I said, we're all going to become little itty-bitty, eensy-weensy countries like Luxembourg and Belgium. And what's some of the smallest countries that are out there? But Qatar, you know, we're going to all become little teeny tiny countries that will be, you know, interconnected. You know, basically our land mass will be like county and town levels, you know, and it's going to be a problem. Now, Dr. Turley had a video about 3 scenarios that could play out over the next few weeks. And I wasn't too impressed with those scenarios. They sounded like, yeah, well, he was talking about the stock market. And he was sounding depressing, too. Here's one thing. One thing we must remember above all. Keeping up our morale is important. It's one of the most important things, because if you don't keep up your morale, you will not have a fighting spirit. And if you do not have a fighting spirit, you will never win anything. So, that's why certain conservatives who are going to be negative and depressing, I just say, goodbye, I'm not talking to you, not listening to your stuff, because you are going to undermine morale. And we need our morale for our fight. Like I said, even if Biden wins, we're still going to be fighting an uphill fight to transform America. We don't know what we'll be into. Revolution, Civil War. Well, if Trump wins, we'll be in Revolution, Civil War anyhow. So we're not going to get out of this conflict, you know, without having a showdown at some point. But we'll see the scenario I'm looking at. Well, first of all, The first scenario that we don't like is that if after all the votes have been counted, examined, scrutinized, tabulated, etc., Biden still squeaks out a narrow victory. That is scenario number 1. Scenario number 2 is if Trump is able to pull out an electoral college victory when all is said and done, when the different recounts have been established and the votes, and illegalities thrown out. That is scenario number 2, that Trump is able to have victory in the electoral college. Now, I said scenario 3 would be maybe Trump could have another type of victory that would be some kind of legal, but it might not be directly related to the electoral college. It would be more like I said, if some states were disqualified because of their voter problems, because I heard there's some that could be disqualified. If they're disqualified, then there will be no one will be at 270, and then it will go to the courts. So that is scenario number 3. But in the courts, we have a Republican majority in both the House of Representatives and per state and in the Supreme Court. So, number 1, Biden wins fair and square. Number 2, Trump wins fair and square. Number 3, Trump wins through legislative vote and because of all the problems going on. Okay, number 4. But even if Trump was able to pull one of these off, we still can be facing a number 4 scenario. And here's the thing. I believe that if Trump was 100% convinced that Biden won fair and square, then he would concede if he was 100% certain. But if he's not 100% certain, then he won't. But here's the thing. If Trump could claim a victory in one of these other ways, court way, legal way, however, then he's not going to leave. And then Biden, he's going to declare himself president no matter what. So we're going to find ourselves with 2 presidents in all likelihood on January 20th. Like I said, the only way we will not find ourselves with 2 presidents is if Biden comes out the winner after everything is examined fair and square. That's pretty much the only way. Or maybe if President Trump did lose enough of his legal battles, then he would have to concede. So there's 2 scenarios where Trump could end up conceding and we would end up with only 1 president come January 20th. But any other scenario, we're going to have 2 presidents, because if Trump thinks he still should have won, he's not going any place. Biden says he won, he's not going any place. And we're going to have 2 presidents. Last time we had that, they were Abraham Lincoln and Jefferson Davis. So I believe in the case that, for whatever reason, we end up with 2 presidents of the United States on January 20th. The leftists will probably try to storm Washington, at which point the conservatives will probably come out too, and therefore your kerfuffle begins. Then Biden will definitely set himself up a presidential office someplace in the country, not sure where, and then like I said, this is play-by-play. We do not know how this is going to turn out. See, and that is the real news, folks. Real news is we do not know how this is going to turn out. The left projects how they wishes this was going to turn out, but they don't know. So, we continue to speculate. But, yes, so we could end up with 2 presidents, and at that point, I think we would probably start to see succession movements in some states. And the strange thing, I think it would be pieces of states, probably the liberal cities. But the point is, the liberal cities are going to be useless without the country to supply them their goods. So, I mean, because the left, their whole thing is based on freebies taken from others to give to them so they'll get votes. But if there's secessionist movements and the country splits, then I doubt the social welfare programs are going to stay in place, and these cities alone will not be able to support themselves. So that's a reason why seceding might not work out so good for those cities. I mean, in the Civil War, when you had whole territories seceding, they had multiple types of land. They had city and country, so they had food and they had resources beyond the cities, but piles of buildings trying to succeed and survive, will they get enough blue countryside to be able to feed them? So there's going to be problems. And I said, no matter who wins, we are headed for conflict for decades to come. I know some Christians are saying, well, this is it. Throw up our hands, end of the world, end of the world. Now, when I was a kid and I used to hear preachers say, oh, the end is near, I figured, aha, you're scared of dying. You just want the end to come before you die. Ha ha. And of course, that's 20, 30 years ago, so they're gone now. And so now I'm like, Christians, they just don't want to suffer. They don't want to fight. So they're saying, oh, it's all over. The Lord's coming. We're just going to wait. See, they want to get out of fighting. The whole rest of the world has been suffering under persecution and misery, war for centuries, and we have been living in the lap of luxury, and we are afraid of having to fight a little bit or experience a little bit of trouble, and we're like, oh, the Lord will come and take us away out of this horrible trouble. Ah. So I don't want anyone to say this is the end of the world just because you're scared of fighting the left. I mean, yes, when the end comes, it comes. Rapture, you know. Christians are gone, they're gone. But until then, we are going to fight and fight and fight. Because people throughout the centuries have thought many times this is the end, and it wasn't. So we are going to fight just in case it's not the end. And after all, the Lord expects us to do our part while we're on this earth. So we're going to do our part. Okay, folks. I'll move on to another video. This is a long one. All right. Keep the faith. God's in control. Like I said, even if we should get a Biden presidency, heaven forbid, God has some purpose and he wants us to learn something, and there's a reason. So we don't always get what we want, but all things work together for good to them who love God and are called according to his purpose. All right. Keep praying. Keep the faith. And I believe 80% in my heart says Trump's gonna beat this. All right, let freedom ring.